The History of Song or Song Shi is one of the official Chinese historical works known as the 24 Histories of China that records the history of the Song dynasty. It was commissioned in 1343 and compiled under the direction of First Minister Toqto'a and Prime Minister Alutu during the Yuan dynasty at the same time as the History of Liao and the History of Jin, running to a total of 496 chapters. The History of Song includes biographies of the Song emperors along with contemporary records and biographical sketches of Song dynasty politicians, soldiers and philosophers. Publication process. During the early years of the Yuan dynasty, its progenitor Kublai Khan ordered the compilation of a history of the Song dynasty, but due to style issues, this was not completed during his reign as emperor. In March 1343, the third year of Khan II Khan, Emperor Huizong of Yuan's Zhejiang era, an imperial edict ordered the creation of histories of the Song, Liao and Jin dynasties, under the overall supervision of Toqto'a, Timur Dasqi Zhang Qian Ouyang Shan Li Haban. Wang Yin Yang Zongjuan were given responsibility for the project, with Wo Yilin Toqto'a Buhua, Yu Wenzhuan, Gong Shidao, UK, Jialu Weisu and 23 others appointed as historiographers. Toqto'a resigned in May 1344 to be replaced on the project by Prime Minister Alutu, even though the latter was not familiar with Chinese characters. The final book took only 2.5 years to produce and was published in Zhejiang Province in 1346, the sixth year of the Zhejiang era. Content. The History of Song, with its 496 chapters, is the largest of the 24 dynastic histories. It contains 47 chapters of imperial biographies, 162 chapters covering Song dynasty records, 32 chapters of tables and 255 chapters of historical biographies. A work of enormous breadth, the History of Song contains more than 2,000 individual historical biographies, more than twice as many as the Old Book of Tang that chronicles the history of the early Tang dynasty. In the section of the book covering Song dynasty records, there are 15 separate categories, viz. Astronomy, the system of 5 phases known as Wuzing, the legal calendar, geography, rivers and waterways, Confucian rites, music, ceremonial weaponry and bodyguards, military dress, elections, government positions, consumer goods, the army and punishment, together with art and culture. Altogether, these chapters make up 1/3 of the work. The historical biographies section of the History of Song is unsurpassed by any of the other dynastic histories. There are detailed descriptions of Song government structures from the central down to the local level. Sections covering consumer goods and the army are also well written, with much more detail than found in the other dynastic histories. The 14 chapters on consumer goods contain 7 times the amount of information as the corresponding chapters of the Book of Tang. A total of 7 chapters contain biographies of traitors and rebels, including Kai Jing, Hu Wang Qianshan, Qin Hui, Zhang Bangchang and Lu Yu, whilst the 4 chapters on Confucian scholars feature individuals such as Zhou Dunyi, Cheng Hao, Cheng Yi, Zhang Zai and Zhou Shi. Evaluation. The ideology behind the History of Song is that of Neo-Confucianism, with coverage of the Confucian doctrines of loyalty, righteousness and ethics regarding the well-known scholars Zhou Dunyi, Cheng Hao, Cheng Yi, Zhang Zai and Zhou Shi amongst others. No less than 278 individuals feature in the section on loyalty and righteousness. Qing dynasty historian Qian Daxun once said, "The History of Song esteems Neo-Confucianism, especially the school of Zhou Shi. Its compilation follows the principles of Confucian life. Fine logic and language is used to convey morality whilst eschewing utilitarianism. The book's style is also highly regarded and considered a model example Wang Anshi's Xining reforms are rejected by the History of Song, whilst political reform campaigners including Lu Huiqing, Zheng Bu and Zhang Dun feature in the section on traitors and rebels. Shimi Yuan, however, despite his involvement in the suicide of Emperor Ningzong of Song's eldest heir, does not feature in this section, or indeed the entire history of Song. Famous General Wang Jianzai, regardless of his valiant combat record, is also omitted, as are many other individuals involved in Mongol defeats by the Song. Despite both the history of Song and the history of Jin being completed at the same time, they are different in many ways. The history of Song records Yufei emerging victorious from every battle with the Jin dynasty. Yet the history of Jin barely mentions Emperor Taizu of Jin's capture of Bojo, Shunchangfu, Ruzhou and Songzhou when Yufei and other commanders withdrew from the battle. Information in the history of Song regarding Yufei all comes from a work by his descendant Ukezeguo Jinchuo Zuibian, the reliability of which is questioned by some sources. For example, whether the Battle of Yancheng really was a great victory for the Song, and if the claim regarding Yufei's 12 gold medals is true. Furthermore, there remains the issue of whether Yufei's troops left the people unharmed, as is sometimes claimed. Qing Dynasty poet and historian Zhao Yi covers this in his 22 historical sketches under a section regarding observations on the Song and Jin armies. Because the history of Song was prepared in a hurry and is the work of many editing, it contains a number of unavoidable errors and contradictions. For example, an individual with 2 biographical entries such as Li Zijing, who appears in chapter 116 of the Historical Biographies section, then again in chapter 222. The work also covers the northern and early southern Song dynasties in detail, with only an outline of the later southern Song dynasty. There are more biographies of individuals from the northern Song period. For example, the Wen Yuan Juan covers a total of 96 people, of which only 11 are from the southern Song era. The history of Song is also considered the most disordered of the 24 dynastic histories. Zhao Yi comments, when the Yuan dynasty wrote the history of the overthrown Song, they probably just arranged pre-existing Song texts. Quote, the Qing Dynasty Siku Quanshu collection of books says that the main purpose of the history of Song is as a tribute to the Song emperors and the Confucianism. Attention is not paid to other matters, so there are a great number of errors. In 1977, Zhonghua Publishing issued a new version of the history of Song with corrections to the punctuation. Later influence. Since the time of its publication, successive dynasties have produced commentaries on the history of Song. In 1546, Ming Dynasty author Wang Zhu completed his 100-chapter supplement to the history of Song, to be followed in 1561 by Kei Viki's 200-chapter Song Shi, Xin Bian, and the 250-chapter Song Shi Ji written by Wang Weijian. During the Qing dynasty, Chen Hu Wangzhong wrote the Song Shi Gao, running to 219 chapters, whilst Chen Xinyuan produced the 40-chapter Song Shi Yi. In Korea, Li Xuan of the Joseon dynasty penned the Song Shi Qian with 148 chapters. All these works correct some of the shortcomings of the history of Song, but are no substitute for the original. During the final years of the King Qianlong Emperor, historian Xiao Jinian along with Qian Daxin and Zhang Zuchang worked hard to revamp the history of Song. Xiao produced his biographical sketch of the southern Song, then went back to work on the history of Song but died before it was completed.